Hey guys, Ryan here with Nuclear Business Club, and you are watching Our 3 Cents, the show for dreamers, doers, and entrepreneurs. We're so excited today to be here with Dr. Todd Sontag, as well as my co-host, Bree Goldstein. Thank you guys for being here. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the business side of being a physician, running a practice. We might even get into some other topics that are hot right now in society. And we're just really glad to have you here today, Dr. Sontag. So thank you so much for that. So Bree, anything exciting for you this week?
Yeah, we've had a really exciting week. We got the illustrations, all the kind of sketches are done. They look amazing. My education book is coming along, so it's nice to have the children's book on the back burner while the illustrator handles it. The educator's dilemma is really kind of falling into place quite nicely. So I'm very grateful that I've had time to work on that over summer break and gearing up for the next school year with a whole new group of students.
Wow,
So,
that's pretty awesome. Honestly, let us know where we can find that book once it is available, because I'm sure people obviously will be interested in that. I have small children myself, so I know they will be big fans. But other than that, for myself personally, not much this week. I'm actually going to shorten mine a little bit just because I'm really excited to get in with Dr. Sontag and hear some more of his side of the business and physician's realm. So let's get into that. For me, nothing, guys. I'm lame this week. It's been incredibly busy wrapping up summer. Kids are crazy, so I'm excited about school going back in. But I do love the kids, but it's intense. So
well, wait a minute, Ryan. You did have a birthday, so we do want to wish you a happy birthday.
thank you. Yes, I did have a birthday yesterday, 36. I'm old, so no longer exciting. But thank you, Bree. I appreciate that. And but anyways, let's get why we're really here. Okay, let's talk to Dr. Sontag about something that most people probably don't know. Even some physicians, some resident physicians that maybe don't own their own practice yet. Maybe they could use this insight from someone who is more experienced, such as yourself. So Bree, if you want to start us off, you feel free to ask him any questions, or Dr. Sontag, if you'd like to just kind of give us your history of your path to becoming a physician, what made you want to do that, kind of give us the cliff notes of your career, so to speak, or your schooling, so to speak.
Sure. First of all, 36 is not old. I take offense to that.
Thank you. You're probably in better health as well, though.
But honestly, I've wanted to be a doctor since I was a kid. I used to like going to the pediatrician's office. I was enamored by the tools that were on the wall. My favorite books growing up were, the history of some of the great scientists that helped develop modern medicine, the develop of vaccines. I always thought it was amazing, what they could do with science and developing these things. So I always knew, before I really knew much about it, that I wanted to be a doctor. And it's something that stuck with me. My other alternative was to become a professional basketball player. 5'6", that's not really going to work too well. So
Makes sense.
I stuck with that path, and it was just something that never faded for me. And it was a lot of hard work, getting through undergrad, med school, and then residency. But there's nothing else I can imagine doing right now.
Very cool. Very cool. And would you say that school came easy for you, or would you say it was something that was more of a challenge? I mean, did you kind of fly through it? I mean, you were one of the IQ whiz kids, or so to speak, or did you feel like it was a little bit more challenging, or kind of somewhere in the middle ground?
It depends. When I was in undergrad, I went to Florida State, so the fall semesters were always much more challenging because I developed such a passion for the college football games. Mm-hmm. And the football games are on Saturdays, so when we have a big test on that Monday,
right,
I usually gonna start studying till Sunday night. So the fall semesters were a bit more challenging. Spring semesters definitely were a bit better. Overall, it wasn't too difficult for me. I really didn't know how to study until I got to medical school, and that's really when you have to kind of figure it out, because a lot of it did come natural to me. But medical school is a whole different ballgame.
I can imagine.
You pretty much live your life to take tests.
Right.
You have a test.
Your job is school at that point, 24/7. I'm assuming.
There's nothing else. You have a test every Monday, and then you have classes the rest of the day and the rest of the week. You hit the weekends, and you're studying all weekend. But then after classes every day, you have to go home, you eat, and then you're studying, until wee hours of the night. So yeah, it's not a great time for your social life. And
It's incredible how much school is involved. I mean, my brother's a physician; he's an ENT,
Mhm.
and it's amazing the amount of school. I'm like, are you done with school yet? So are you a fellow? Like it's an enigma. It really is. I
Sure.
mean, I respect you so much for going through that process because you're pretty much half your life is spent in school, and it's incredibly intense. So
Yeah, I don't miss it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. You paid your dues. You're ready. So, Bree, do you? I know you've got some. I see you jotting away over there. What do you got?
I do. I mean, do you have a favorite part of your job? Anything that you look forward to the most, or just don't look forward to?
Um,
Least
One of the
favorite?
biggest problems that I don't enjoy is the paperwork and is dealing with insurance companies and kind of trying to jump through hoops. When you want to prescribe something, a lot of times it's not necessarily what you can get for or what the patient needs, but more what the insurance company wants you to put them on that's closest. As far as what I enjoy the most, one of my biggest passions has become more the preventative aspect of medicine. I'm not a physician that likes medicine. I'm a huge advocate for lifestyle change. And that kind of ties into kind of my personal life. Um, my parents both passed away when they were young, both medical issues. And looking back at how they lived their life, I know they didn't. I know they didn't exercise. I know they didn't eat the best, and they never actually went to the doctor's office. So I'm sure looking back, I'm pretty sure my dad had diabetes, and there were a lot of things I think could have been prevented. And for me, when I finished residency, I actually weighed like 260 pounds. And when we had our first child, it was an eye-opening moment for me because I wanted to be there for him, and I didn't want him to not have a father for a lot of his life. And so it just clicked in me, but I didn't really know how to do it. We don't get taught nutrition. We don't get taught any of that kind of stuff in medical school. And so I started working out. I started working out as much as I could. And, you'd lose a few pounds here and there, but, it didn't really start to come off until I really started reading about nutrition and how to lose weight. And once I put them together, everything just started to flow. And so it's become a passion of mine to really try and help patients through lifestyle change, as opposed to just throwing medicine
Have you
at
found
them.
that people are receptive to that, or are they just looking for the quick, give me the medical
Instant
fix?
gratification.
Right.
Right. So both. Both. I think you're going to attract and keep the patients that believe in your method of medicine. So if somebody's coming looking for a quick fix, a quick medicine, and I'm trying to teach them, more about lifestyle, some of them don't want to hear it. And they may not come back because they may just want that medicine, to help them control whatever issues. Now, I will give them medicine appropriately. If their blood pressure is high, if their diabetes is way out of control. But I'm going to spend the time to really encourage lifestyle. I've got a dietitian in my office, and then medicine's appropriate, but in the right situation.
Sure. It seems, and I'll toss it back to you in one moment if you don't mind,
No,
Ryan.
no, this is great information. So I
Mhm.
love it.
It sounds like you've done a lot of research on nutrition for yourself. Um, from your personal history, you have the dietitian in the office. If one of our viewers or our listeners wanted to learn about nutrition, is the best thing for them to do to go to a dietitian, talk to their doctor, or is there another place that they should seek out information? Because
Right. So nutrition is one of the most complicated things in the world. And the more I read up about nutrition, the more I realize I don't know. A lot of this stuff is so theoretical. Um, and, I went out and I became board certified in obesity management. And I still today, everything you read, you're going to find something else that contradicts what you just read. And that makes it very frustrating. But I don't think there's a cookie cutter way to eat for everybody across the board. Everybody has different lifestyles, and I think you have to find a method that works for the patient that is sustainable long term.
That's very interesting, actually. I mean, I guess I do believe, preventive medicine probably is the answer. As you said, getting people on board with that. Obviously, everybody wants the quick solution, as Bree mentioned. But very cool, very very enlightening, honestly, because so many people they are quick to, what can I take for this, or give me this weight loss, or so hearing that from a physician really does kind of drive the point home, obviously, because that is it is everybody's quick to prescribe stuff nowadays, it seems like. So Dr. Sontag, let me ask you, what made you decide to partner with ORHS versus Advent or one of the other medical providers in Central Florida?
Well, I was actually practicing up in Jacksonville at the time, and I was working with the biggest for-profit hospital corporation in the country, and it was the most miserable situation I can imagine. I joined this practice right out of residency, and at the same time, the practice that I joined had been independent and decided to sign on with this organization.
Okay.
And for the first couple of years, it was fine. You were allowed to practice how you wanted to, and nobody really intervened. After a couple of years, we started getting demands, and they were made by the corporate office from people that never stepped foot in your building. And they would limit how many hours your staff could work, how many staff members you could have. And at the time, we were still on paper charts, and we had 3 locations. We were expanding to 4. But this company used a formula to try and figure out how many employees you needed to have.
Right.
And they treated our practice as if it was one location. And so we had to have a front desk person at every location, and so the formula didn't work for our practice.
So there could be one employee for that front desk for several practices.
Correct. And so they started telling us to cut staff and cut hours, and they created such a toxic environment that nobody was happy. The doctors weren't happy, the patients weren't happy, the staff wasn't happy, and this is something I didn't want to be a part of.
Right.
I really felt like it affected patient care. You couldn't return your messages in time. It was just a disaster. And so I started looking to transfer somewhere else. And I grew up in Orlando, so at that time I wanted to go back home. And we were coming back down here all the time anyways. And I had interviewed for Florida Hospital for a position, and I wasn't the right fit for that position. So I had interviewed with physician associates also at the same time. And one of the things they told me when I interviewed for with physician associates, they're like, we've been physician owned for 25 years. We're never going to be a part of a hospital corporation. And so I'm like, all right, this is perfect. So I chose them over,
group,
right. I chose them over Florida Health and, or Florida Hospital. And 6 months into my first year on the job, at the doctor's meeting, they tell us, well, we're either going to partner with, this one or that one. And I was not looking forward to this transition.
Right.
But we've been a part of the practice, part of Orlando Health now for about 6-7 years. And I can honestly say it's been a pretty good experience.
Nice.
There's always going to be things you don't necessarily agree with. But for the most part, they let us practice how we want to. If we want to work more hours, if you want to make more money, you can. So it was surprisingly much better than I had anticipated once I got that news.
Now let me ask you this real quick, and then I'll turn it over to you, Bree, because I know I see you over there. She's always, the wheels are always turning in here for her. So, but just a quick question. So working with in a practice like that where there's other physicians and stuff of that nature, do you feel like it's when you go home at the end of the day, do you feel like you kind of still take it home with you, or do you feel like if when you get home you can actually relax and your colleague will kind of take over, so to speak, if you do have a replacement while you're out?
Right. So when I first joined the practice, there was a doctor that had started that office about 20 years ago. So he had a well-established practice. After a couple of years, he decided he was going to move to the other coast of the country. And so here I am inundated with patients that I just had no time to see. to combine, my practice, which had been starting to really develop, and then his practice into one, there were, it was quite a while that I was seeing on average like over 40 patients a day. And it was, seeing the patients wasn't the hard part. It was keeping up with reviewing the labs and reviewing the x-rays in a timely manner. And I kept falling behind because you can only work so much.
Yeah.
And
You can only juggle so many things at once, even if you're good at it,
right. I mean, every couple weeks I'd have to spend a whole Sunday, literally like 8 hours, just catching up my charts and catching up everything. And then I finally got a nurse practitioner, and she was the best thing that's ever happened to the practice. I mean, she's made my life so much better. Although right now she's on maternity leave, so I'm working Fridays again, but it's all worth it. And then the practice has continued to flourish, and so we added another doctor about 1.5 years ago. And now we're actually, in a couple months, we're moving to a brand new location, double the size, anticipating adding in even a fourth provider. But going back to your question, I always finish my charts before I go home. I never leave anything behind, and as soon as I get home, it's left behind in the office. Usually though, when I get home, I'm so tired of talking all day that I just want to like sit there and decompress for about 20 minutes and
Makes sense.
just kind of do nothing, which makes it hard when you have, as you know, little kids that, they're happy to see dad.
Yeah.
And, but you have to make time. I mean, they're priority one.
Yeah.
So, usually we'll play some basketball outside after we get home.
That's cool.
And, I leave it all behind.
That's very cool, actually.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do as a business owner. So, I admire you that you're able to, to have such a profession where you're helping people on a daily basis, and then you can still find time for the family and everything else. So, that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Really awesome.
That is neat. It sounds like you have some really long days. I mean, I would imagine with all the paperwork and reviewing charts and labs and seeing patients, right? How do you find that work-life balance?
You just have to schedule that time. I mean, I have to wake up 5 a.m. to work out because I can't do it after work.
Wow.
And then I'm typically going in 7:30, and I usually don't get home till 7:30. And I'm working through lunch, so it's really mentally very draining. But I think that's just a part of what we do. You kind of, you just get to that point where this is your job, this is your career, this is your passion. It doesn't feel like work. I love doing what I do. Like I said, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And aside from the paperwork, I wish I could hire someone to do that for me. But, I just love seeing patients and love helping them get healthier and live longer lives.
That's neat. Can we talk about the business of doctoring?
Sure.
Is that all right with you?
Of course.
All right, so there's you and another doctor, a nurse practitioner. I'm sure you have someone that does either billing or records, something like that. Who else is in your office, in your practice?
So a lot of it's not even in my office.
Okay.
The billing, we used to do the billing ourselves as far as the coding of the office visits. Now they've hired a computer that does that for us.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
So we don't even code anymore. But we do have billers and coders somewhere offsite. I don't even know where they are. But in my office, I have a front desk girl. I have a checkout girl. I have an office manager. I have another girl working on a lot of paperwork that does also returning phone calls and doing that. Then I have an office manager. And then for every provider, there's also an MA. So I think there's about 10 of us now.
Wow, that's a pretty big office. Congratulations on moving to a larger space.
Yeah.
We're so cramped right now.
Does everyone get along, or do you ever find that problems come up? I mean,
Yeah.
do they teach you how to handle this?
They don't teach us anything.
They have to teach you something.
We got a few critical things.
We gotta pick it up on the fly.
What do you do?
We have an amazing office. But every once in a while, somebody transfers back home, and the hiring process is so difficult because you need somebody that not only is good but meshes with your office, and you got to find someone that you can trust, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult, but I mean, right now we have an amazing group, and I trust like my medical assistant, my office manager, you know, everyone in there is really quality.
That's
So,
awesome. I would imagine that trust is key. I mean, in addition to running a business, right, or running like a business, you're dealing with people's lives and their
Exactly.
health and their time, and the two most important commodities that they have, right, are their health and their time. So,
Correct.
I think it's really amazing that you have such an awesome office and that you're so proud of
Okay.
them.
I do. I love them. We do a lot of fun stuff as an office. We'll usually do a couple of group outings, a couple times a year. Last time we went to Chocolate Factory. We've gone to escape rooms, and then Halloween we dress up. I think this year we're doing Star Wars.
That's
so
fun. You have a theme for the office?
every year, and people come on Halloween even if they don't have a visit. They like to come just to see us. That's pretty cool. And then
Do you take walk-in, drop-in visitors to check out your costumes?
only on Halloween.
Only on Halloween.
And then usually around the holiday time, we'll also have a party. And this past year we went to a dinner theater show, and then I got picked to dance on stage, which
Oh man.
yeah, I'm
That's
not
We
a,
need, to
great.
we need to put that in the B-roll.
I
I'm-
know. Can we put a clip in that? And
I don't think there's video.
Oh, darn it.
It's 2019. There's video. Somebody find it.
There actually is. Every one of my staff took video, so I know it's out there.
That's good though. That means you're fun. You're a fun boss, fun fun guy to work with, and that's cool. I mean, because there's a lot of physicians that and I've kind of come from the healthcare background a little bit, so to speak, and so I've met so many physicians that are incredibly uptight, and so it's very nice to meet some that are down to earth, and a lot of times they're just uptight because they're in a work setting. They're so stressed. I get it. Trust me.
I don't
I
get
can only
along with
imagine.
most doctors. I can't hang out with them outside of work.
More than, yeah, I understand. I'm the same way.
Because they're that way outside of work too.
I'm sure some are. I'm sure some are, and I'm sure some are probably just like you. I'm sure you have your friends and your clique too, and that's cool though. But let me ask you this real quick, because I know like Bree mentioned, we're talking about the business side of things. How do you feel about this whole, I guess, marijuana revolution, CBD? I know that's a hot topic right now, especially with investors. How do you feel that's going to play out over time from both a medical and a recreational standpoint? And do you feel like it does have a medical justification as a medication?
Right. So CBD and medical marijuana are similar. CBD right now is both federally approved and state approved in the state of Florida, so I can recommend it. Right now, medical marijuana, even though we have all these marijuana clinics, is still not federally legal.
Right.
And so I can't even technically recommend someone to have medical marijuana. I can tell patients where they can go to be evaluated, but I can't tell someone, you should really do medical marijuana. I have a lot of patients that have gone that route and gotten their cards to get the medical marijuana, and they've been able to get off of some major medications, major pain medicines, major anxiety medicines. And as far as everything I've read about medical marijuana, I've got no problem with it. It's safe. So if it can get people off of these medications, I'm all for it.
Wow, that's really powerful, very good information, because everybody's always, it's kind of the hot topic right now, especially from a business standpoint. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think this is going to be the next big thing for investors? Do you kind of stay out of it? Feel free to weigh in. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually it will be federally approved, and I think after that, it's only a matter of time before it's recreationally approved. I think it's a good investment, honestly. I think it's really been helping a lot of people. So as far as from a business standpoint, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great investment opportunity. It's just a matter of picking which stocks, which funds you think are going to take off.
Yeah, who will be the biggest player in that game? That's very interesting. I mean, do you think there's obviously there's abuse with everything, but do you think that alcohol would you say it's fair to say it's as safe, marijuana is as safe as alcohol?
I really don't think alcohol is that safe.
Okay, interesting.
I think marijuana, I think, is much safer than alcohol. I think if alcohol came out today, it would never get legalized. And you hear something that can destroy, a large part of your body, especially your liver. So, used in moderation once in a while is totally fine. But, we're finding more and more issues, not only with alcohol hurting your liver, but excess sugar. Fatty liver is becoming a major topic in medicine right now because of all the damage to the liver. Medical marijuana, or marijuana in general, really don't think there's any long-term effects that I've really seen. So
it's incredibly interesting. That's very cool to know, and I know our viewers, we ask about this kind of stuff frequently. So especially with the marijuana investments and that kind of thing, because that's hot right now.
Ryan, let me jump in here because we actually did invest in a business tangential to a marijuana company a couple years ago. And the one thing I would say is just like anything that you're investing in, just be sure that you're really evaluating it, not just for kind of the cool factor, but make sure it hits all your checkpoints before you invest.
Yeah, because I have to assume a lot of those are startups, and so could be, go one of two ways, usually no middle ground. So that's good information for everyone out there. Definitely do your due diligence on that, guys. Yeah, I guess that's enough for that topic. Go ahead.
So you mentioned sugar.
yes.
You mentioned sugar. We're talking about alcohol. We're talking about marijuana, and you tossed sugar in there?
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me. Do you view sugar as a drug? Is it just an additive? Is it?
Man, it's
Pile it
one of
on,
the
give me
worst
some.
things you could put in your body.
No. Why is
Yeah,
that?
sorry.
No more gummy bears. Why is sugar so
you can have a
bad?
gummy bears if there's CBD in there.
Doctor's orders. I'm sorry.
Obviously, we know sugar, excess sugar can lead to diabetes. That we've known for years. But what we're finding out more and more is one of the biggest issues with a lot of medical things right now is what causes elevated insulin levels. And the number one thing that causes elevated insulin is sugar. So elevated insulin can lead to heart disease, which for years we thought it's just your cholesterol, right? So we've been checking cholesterol in your body for years in your labs. And the problem is 50% of people that have heart disease actually have a normal cholesterol. So at the end of the day, cholesterol numbers are just numbers. But the more and more research that's coming out is showing it's really about sugar, it's about insulin, it's about inflammation.
So sugar and inflammation are related?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sugar can cause elevated insulin, and insulin is inflammatory, in your blood vessels. So
That's interesting. So if I'm having knee pain from tendinitis, I should cut back on my sugar.
you probably will notice a difference.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we're talking refined sugar, we're talking an apple.
More of your refined sugars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there we go. Back to nutrition. Full circle already.
All goes back to nutrition.
My goodness. What have you learned from being a doctor that, or on your journey to be a doctor, that you implement into your personal life?
That's tough. I think part of it has, anytime you're going through the education process, I mean, number one, you feel like you've got everything you learn about. And, personal life, I think, what I preach is what I, implemented before I started preaching. Because before I lost all the weight and did all these things, I wouldn't talk to patients about their weight. I couldn't be one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of people. And so I never talked to them about nutrition. I never talked to them about losing weight. I just kind of gloss over it. And, how could I tell people to lose weight when, hey, look at me, I just couldn't do it. So as I learned more and more about it, that's, I implemented it in my life. I was able to, help other patients as well, and then they would see the change. And of course they want to know what you're doing. So I think that's the main thing.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Do you have another one, Bree? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to ask you real
Gonna make
quick.
a swivel.
What's that?
I interrupted you. Say it again. I
No,
was saying we're gonna make a swivel.
So my question for you, Dr. Sontag, would be, obviously medical school is a journey. I mean, it's incredible. It's vast. It's an enigma to me. What advice would you give to business owners that are taking the same journey, so to speak, trying to launch a business, open a business, that type of thing, and they're kind of, they've been going at it 3 or 4 years and they still haven't quite got there, but they're starting to make a little bit of traction. What advice would you give them to let them know that, hey, I went to school for 20 something, 20 years, whatever it is, if you count primary education, it's an incredible amount of school. What advice would you give them to say, don't give up, you can do this, that type of thing?
Yeah, and I think that goes across all fields, all businesses. Is nothing's ever easy. There's always going to be speed bumps along the way, and so you got to figure out what's going to work for you. It'd be great if the first thing you ever tried and the first thing you ever did, was an instant success, but it's not always like that. And for me in medicine, it was like trying to figure out what kind of medicine I wanted to do. When I first went into medical school, I was convinced I wanted to be a radiologist.
Oh, interesting.
Took me about 14 seconds of my rotation to realize this is not for me.
Right. Was it boring, or is there a reason specifically why you weren't really into it?
Yeah, it was boring.
That's what I assumed, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I sat there and I thought, following an interventive radiologist, would have been different because I know they do a lot of procedures, but they're all into computerized stuff, and I like that kind of thing. But the guy just sat there in a dark room and went through image after image after image, just talking into his microphone, and that was one of the worst rotations for me because it was not for me. But then you start going to other rotations and getting exposed to other things, and you really find where your passion is, and you find what you like, what you don't like, and so that kind of helps mold your path. So sometimes you're gonna find yourself in a situation, and kind of like a fork in the road, and I assume that's with businesses too, where it may not be what you expected, but sometimes you got to roll with it, but you just want to make sure you're taking a calculated step when you do that.
That's she's the one. She keeps me on track with that too, because I'm the big let's just jump in and see what happens, and that's why we're here today. So honestly, there's a ton of truth to that.
That's amazing. So what about family medicine pulled you in? What was really that draw between that, or I mean, you could have gone anyway, right? You could have been an OBGYN, you could have been a surgeon, you could have been a radiologist.
Right.
Right.
So,
why family?
So my problem was that I liked everything just about. I really considered a few other things. One of them was OBGYN. I thought that the bond you formed with, especially a first-time mom, is unlike any other you form, in medicine. And so it's just to be there, when she goes into labor and to have her firstborn child, there's nothing else that can compare to that. I mean, it's truly one of those call home moments where, you're like, guess what I just did, especially the first time you do it. It was pretty frightening at the same time, but, we had to deliver about 100 babies in residency. So
that's a lot of babies.
It was a pretty cool experience, but I got my fix. I'm done. I don't need to do that anymore. General surgery, I also loved because so many things now are robotic. And so it a lot of times feels like you're playing a video game, as you're operating on patients. So, that kind of is up my alley. But I realized that I didn't like the hospital. And so that kind of knocked out a bunch of things. I preferred keeping people out of the hospital. And so that really helped take me to family medicine. Prevention for me is everything. So there were a few other rotations that I definitely didn't like. I did an inpatient psych rotation where we actually shocked the people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Intense.
Shocking.
Intense but interesting.
It was not for me. It was actually my easiest rotation. I worked about 2 to 3 hours a day. I was done every day by 9:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
but it was like an assembly line. You're just going from one patient to another, and you're asking them the same basic questions. How are you feeling? Are you having any suicidal thoughts? Are you seeing anything, any hallucinations, hearing anything? And then we just go to the next one. And I didn't feel like I was actually helping these people. It was. But I really liked a lot of pieces of almost every other rotation I did. And so that's kind of why I went family, is because I felt like, one, I could do prevention. Two, I don't have to leave my house in the middle of the night to be on call, and it worked for me. And, I love what I do now.
I want to go back real quick to when you talked about surgery, how it's kind of like playing a video game.
Right.
I understand that you are the official doctor for Magic Gaming,
Correct.
which is a pro sport, basketball being played through video games. Is that right?
Right.
Did I say that right?
So the NBA, they actually have a whole esports league now, and almost every team has an esports team. So the Magic have Magic Gaming, and it's a group of 6 players, and 5 of them play at a time, and they compete against another team from the Celtics or the Knicks or something like that. And so yeah, they chose me to be their official team doctor, which has been a pretty cool thing. And again, we preach prevention with them too. My goal with them is, people are always like, why do video gamers need?
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah, I get that
Tendinitis or
question.
something? Yeah.
Well, yeah, tendinitis is a big one, but we want to prevent these things. So these players practice 8 to 10 hours a day, and they're sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day, and it's intense. And so one of the things we preach is, make sure your gaming station is correctly set up, because if there are things that are a little off as far as positions over the course of a day, over the course of a whole week, you're going to cause injuries like tendinitis and carpal tunnel and neck issues and back issues. So the ergonomics of the workstation, the gaming station, is so important. The other thing we talk about is strengthening, core strengthening, because this is a position where you spend a lot of hours seated, that you really have to have a strong core to play at your best. And so we talk a lot about that, but then when they do start to have injuries, they have to let me know, because minor injuries lead to major injuries, and then that can really affect their gameplay. And these are kids that are 18, 19, 20 years old, probably haven't been to the doctor, since they got their last set of shots, years ago. And for them, they're doing their dream job as a teenager, which, is pretty awesome, and they make a lot of money. And so you just have to reassure them that if you start to develop something, let me know, that we can fix it before it gets to be worse. Because these guys are making $100,000 a year plus, doing this kind of stuff.
So they want to stay in top shape,
They're right, and
At least their
they're
fingers.
right?
yeah, they're afraid they're gonna lose their job, and there's plenty of video gamers up and coming that are gonna be happy to take their job. And their careers are usually pretty short lived.
Wow.
They're usually retired by the time they're 25.
Interesting. If we take this and we parlay it to kind of the general populace, I feel like we're almost all video gamers to an extent, where we're on our devices, we're hitting buttons, we're looking down, people are walking into walls, right?
Right.
Like, what can you tell our audience? What action steps can you tell them to help them improve their health today, or help them prevent issues down the road today that they can implement now?
Right. So, that's the key word, right? Is prevention. So what happens? Yeah, a lot of people are on their computers all day. They're on their phones all day. They're sitting a lot. So it's really very similar concepts. One of them is going to be your posture.
Those we're talking about.
As we're both slouching, I'm like,
Perhaps I should adjust.
So posture is so important. I think there's an article about people developing horns because of their cell phone use and looking down. I'm not even sure. I didn't read it. But making sure you have good posture, and, same thing, developing your core strength and making sure you're getting up and exercising and staying fit overall.
So maybe on those apps that would tell you to get up and move every hour, or
Sure.
count a pedometer to count your steps, or I mean, do you say hold your phone up so you're not looking down?
Right.
What do you?
Yes, all of those.
Oh.
See, you already have the
Fantastic.
answers.
I feel like we've talked about this maybe once before, maybe right before the show.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, on adding on to that though, what would you say? Because I go with this battle all the time, and I would definitely respect your expert opinion on this. My child, specifically my 10-year-old, is completely addicted to video games.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, from a physician's standpoint, would be a reasonable amount of time for any child who's not doing it for work purposes to be in front of any kind of screen? Is there something that maybe the physicians association recommends, or something that you would personally recommend?
Right. So typically about 1 to 2 hours a day max
Okay.
of screen time. It's hard because they're all addicted, right? So
As well as the adults,
right, and so it's one of those things. I experienced the same thing. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old, and there is a game that's been out for a while now, and they would sit there and play for hours on end.
Yeah.
And we realized that their personalities would change. If you didn't kick them off the PlayStation, then they're after a while they become different kids. And so we actually made them sign a contract, and we limited their use of this to 1 hour. And as soon as they started doing that, all of a sudden they became normal kids
Completely
again.
changed, yeah. That's amazing, because I fight with the same thing with my son, and you take it away from him, and then you feel like a bad parent because they come at you like a drug addict, like, please just let me have the game, I'll do anything. You're
Well,
like,
there
whoa,
is now
it's
video
scary.
game addiction.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's very scary. So, also making sure that they're playing the right kind of games for their age level. A lot of time, and they're all rated. But as parents, we usually don't even look too much at a video game. It should be safe, right?
Yeah.
But, a lot of these games are rated, for over 17.
Right.
And,
Or with the online play aspect, it's pretty much
right. And then it's like, who are they even talking
Right.
to? Who are these people? Why is this grown man? Who's that voice?
right.
You know?
45-year-old living in his mother's basement playing video games at 3 a.m.
You
Yeah.
kind of touched on this. You talked about how playing video games impacts your son's personality,
Mhm.
and you talked about how it is almost like an addiction. It is an addiction, right? Have you seen any changes in mental health related to video games, or in, I guess, eyes? But really, I'm wondering about mental health.
Right. So that's a very important topic, actually. We had a couple years ago, we had the shooting in Jacksonville, and that was at the Madden tournament. And that was somebody that was mentally ill, and again, a younger kid that couldn't handle the stress of this competition. And so that's something we also talk to our players about, is the mental health of this stuff, because it can be extremely stressful, and at that age that they have their dream job and their the stress to succeed, it can be very overwhelming.
It's interesting. What about in your regular practice, your day-to-day? Do you see people that are just, you can see a change in them from when they came in to they've started playing video? I don't want to pick on video games, but I will for a moment. They've started playing video games, and now they're experiencing different highs and lows, or just a different level of kind of status quo, or?
I guess I haven't really seen a sudden change in people due to
Okay.
video games, but video games do definitely have some positive aspects to it. So it definitely helps with eye-hand coordination. It helps develop the ability to multitask. So there's actually quite a few studies that there's a lot of positives to it. But just like anything else, it's how much, right? How much is too much? And that goes back to Ryan's question. What do typically 1 to 2 hours. If you have 1 to 2 hours, I think that's, plenty, but you start to go beyond that, I think it can really start to affect you.
So we should play video games, just limited, that are appropriate for where we are in our life.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
I love it. You hear that, Carter? So that's great. Great information, honestly. Let me ask you this, and then we'll start to wrap up unless she has anything else. But just going back to the what is it called?
Esports.
Esports. So, from a business perspective, do you have any kind of ownership interest in the company, or
I've gotten a free hat.
Okay.
No,
Good.
that was pretty cool.
Hey, that's cool. That's cool. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know if something that you would saw as a future potential for becoming something larger or.
We the way I got that position is Orlando Health became the main sponsor of the Magic Gaming team.
Okay.
And so then they chose me to represent them. So I don't know what kind of financial situation took place between them as a sponsorship,
Right.
but my position is purely voluntary.
Well, it's still cool. I mean, that's a
I
cool
guess so.
that's a cool credential to say the least.
Yeah.
I think that's actually cooler.
yeah.
That you're there because you want to be there versus.
Right.
Yeah.
You actually have a passion and not just
Yeah.
it's not just dollar signs. So that is.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it, and you get to really get to know these kids, and the guys that I really got to know on this team. I mean, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They're very well grounded, and they understand, and I'm kind of excited. They didn't end the season how they wanted to, but I think they got a great core, and I think next year should be pretty interesting.
Wow, that's very cool. And so you're the doctor of the Magic virtual team or the entire program?
Right,
or how-
just the Magic Gaming
Okay,
team.
so each team has their own physician in theory, or is it more because of the partnership with ORHS?
It's probably more because of the partnership. I think another one or two may have a team doctor.
Okay, so they got a little special. They're getting special treatment basically. They're getting a little,
Right.
some white glove service there. That's
Right.
awesome. It's very
Right.
cool of you.
Wow. Yeah. What do you I have just a last question.
Sure.
What do you do in your life that makes you successful, either personally or professionally?
Wow.
We want the
That's
secret
pretty
sauce.
deep. I think I just always have that drive to do more.
Okay.
Right. So, I love what I do, but I'm always trying to, what can I do more? So I'm trying to, personally, I'm trying to get more fit. I'm working out regularly, trying to eat better, and those are things that are always going to be a challenge. As far as other things I'm working on, I'm actually trying to develop a whole weight loss clinic. And that's kind of in the planning stages right now.
So
And
exciting.
then I'm also working on writing a book,
You
a weight loss
are.
book. Yes.
Do you care to share about the clinic and or the book?
Right. So I'm talking with the president of South Seminole, who's with Orlando Health, and I've been working with another physician liaison to help me with this. But I'm going to be presenting my plan in a couple weeks, and I'm really excited about it because I really think this can change things. I think if we develop these clinics and develop a dream team, it could really help patients get off medicine, get healthier. I think a lot of weight loss clinics and a lot of doctors that kind of practice it don't include everything. And you touched on one aspect with e-gaming is the mental health aspect of it. Probably the most important part, and probably the part that we neglect more than anything. The exercise is easy. You show up and you do it. The cardio, the strength training, you need both. The nutrition is complicated. It's going to be different for everybody. But my plan is to have this dream team, and including mental health and including the dietitian, the doctor, a coach. I want to have them include the whole family, not just the one person that comes in, but it's got to be a family thing. A lot of these people have kids, and we don't know how to really cook for everybody. So cooking classes are another aspect of it. So I'm really, really excited about it, actually. And I think it's got potential to really change how we do things.
I love that. I hope you'll keep us posted on it.
I promise I will.
Yeah, we'd love to. Honestly, tons of great information. Very interesting person, to be honest, Dr. Sontag. So thank you for coming here today.
Thank you.
But really just fascinating. I'm always fascinated by physicians in general, just because I don't understand it. It's way beyond my grasp. I'm a fun guy and I like business, but school is a whole nother story. So I respect that to its highest degree.
Well, I feel the same about what you do.
Well, thank you. I very appreciate
Yeah.
it. And a funny story, actually, Dr. Sontag, if you don't mind me telling.
Of course.
He actually, believe it or not, I own a company, obviously some of you may know or not, but called Sandlot Sports. At the time it was called Preschool Sports. And Dr. Sontag, he had a couple of his children in there. And we were still in the very beginning phases. We still had a lot of work to do and needed a lot of help. And I will say thank you very much, because he actually stepped in and coached a team for us when we were hard up for coaches, and did a very good job. I believe we actually coached a game or two together, and it was very, very enjoyable. So I want to thank you. It just shows that you're a leader in really every capacity, because 10 parents standing there who stepped up, you know what I mean? So there's something to be said about that. So thank you so much for being here today. Bree, thank you for pulling the connection, because we really was a great interview. Guys, make sure to
Ryan,
check. Yeah.
I gotta interrupt you.
No, okay.
We should mention that his passion shows through. He's given us some awesome actionable steps to take today, and where can people find him?
Ooh, okay. Do you want to do that part?
You can do it. It doesn't matter to me.
I think you do it.
All right.
Because you're good. You're good.
All right. Figure out where to throw it, Matt. Okay. Dr. Sontag, your passion is so evident in everything that you've said. Thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
you've given us some awesome steps that we can really implement today, which is amazing. It's not something that you get every time you talk with a doctor. So I appreciate that. I think all of our audience members and folks tuning in will appreciate that as well. Someone's looking for a new doctor. They want to hear more about you. They want to learn more about you. Where can they find you?
I'm all over the place. So, because we're part of Orlando Health, they can go to the Orlando Health website and they can find me on there.
What's the website?
Probably orlandohealth.com.
Okay, wait, say that again. You can go to the Orlando Health website, orlandohealth.com.
Right. So they can go to orlandohealth.com and they can search for me on their provider search. And there's a whole page about me. There's even a video up there, which I'm actually wearing a suit, which was not my idea. I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff. So I'm there. I have a page on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. You just have to search for my name.
Where can we find you on Twitter?
My handle is Tojeso, Tojeso. They're my initials.
Awesome. And we can find your office specifically for you in Oviedo, Florida?
Right. I'm in
Is that
Oviedo,
right?
Florida, and in a couple of months, I'm going to be moving about a mile down the road. I'll still be in Oviedo, Florida. But yeah, if you're in the area, I'd love to meet you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, perfect. Well, thank you again, Dr. Sontag. And also, if you want to find him, as I easily did, just Google Dr. Todd Sontag, and you'll find him. He's one of the first results on there. So congratulations on that. That's in itself is a feat. But that's pretty much it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I know what obviously I know your hourly time is very valuable. So thank you for being here, really. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you.